Good day, everybody, and welcome to 20 Minutes on Ice, powered by the Garage Door Sports Network. I'm your host, Ryan, and as always, with me is my co-host, Nick. We've got another fantastic show coming up for you, so let's get right to our opening face-off. Today on 20 Minutes on Ice, we're going to be talking with the co-director of scouting for the OHL's Erie Otters, Mike Battah. Plus, we're also going to be looking at the NHL Outdoors games that took place this past weekend at Lake Tahoe. And we have all our usual segments, including the Randomizer, 3 Hot, 3 Not, and our Players of the Week. But I can't do any of this without my co-host. He's the Curry to my Gretzky, Nick McVicker. Nick, how's it going this week?
It's going pretty good. I mean, you could do it without me. It just wouldn't sound as good. It's an hour of you talking by yourself, Ryan. I think you might bore people. I'm sorry.
You're not. That's not an untruth. You're absolutely correct.
I like talking to you, but by yourself, I feel.
I could put some people to sleep. That's what you do. For those podcasts where Nick can't make it, you just throw me on and I will put you to sleep. No problem. So definitely a busy week in the hockey world. We're going to get into the outdoor games, but
Isn't it always busy now that there's hockey actually on? I mean, we spent 6 months, dude, trying to find busy.
This is beautiful though. I love it. I mean, teams are pretty much playing every other day unless there's an organized, break period. There's always games on. It helps to have the NHL package this year. That's definitely a bonus. So this year has been top notch for me. I'm really enjoying it.
Some good hockey too. Let's not forget that. There's some sloppy teams, obviously. We keep bringing up the Senators and we keep bringing up the Red Wings, but there's some very good hockey being played and some incredible players that we haven't seen this kind of level of consistent play from players in a long time.
Matthews and McDavid, and Draisaitl's there too. Marner. McKinnon had the fantastic goal in the outdoor game. Plus they had the ISO cam on him too. So
and he had a point in all 3 Colorado goals that game, I think.
Fantastic.
Ridiculously good player.
So we'll get into that. How about the big news coming out of this weekend? Mike Babcock named head coach of the University of Saskatchewan. I'm no longer a Babcock fan. I was super excited when he arrived in Toronto. What are we talking, 7 years ago now? And then
has it been that long? Oh my goodness.
6-7 years ago.
It feels like it's been longer and shorter all at the same time.
And then that turned, then he got fired and information started to come out. And it's just, it's like he's the old guard. And I just don't feel his way works anymore. I'm kind of worried for these kids at the university.
The Huskies.
What are they getting into now?
Well, okay. So it comes out that he's signed, right? And that's fine, but it's for 1 year. And it's a volunteer position.
Probably with an opt-out as well.
No, it's just 1 year.
Okay.
He's agreed to do the 1 year. It's volunteer anyway, so
right.
You can't really opt out of a contract that's volunteer. Let's make that very clear.
Fair enough.
But his entire goal is to find his replacement before the season starts and make his replacement the assistant coach. Which to me, I don't know if I could be reading too much into this, and that's totally fine. But to me, that sounds like he's coming on as a name to try to get players to the university. But he's not actually going to be heavily involved. It sounds like whoever the assistant coach is going to be the one who's putting systems in place and stuff like that. So it's more of a signing on name, on paper, than anything else. I don't think he's really going to have as big of a say. So I think the players will be fine, really. I'm not too worried about the players in this case.
It'll bring some notoriety to the university. And hopefully, Canadian university and college sports could use a bump up. So that's positive in that regard. It gets more eyes on the sports.
Yeah, it's funny though, because I was on Twitter and I'm a huge fan of U Sports. I think it's a great level of hockey. Most of the players at the U Sport level are former CHL players, and a lot of them had very good CHL careers, but just weren't good enough to make the NHL or the AHL out of the draft. So they ended up staying their entire 5-year career in the CHL and then deciding, you know what, I'm going to go to U Sports and play there. I have a couple friends who actually did that, and now one of them is playing at Ryerson. Another one went up to North Bay and was playing for Nipissing for a year. But they're good players. Some of them 100+ points in the CHL across a couple of years. Like, they're not scrubs.
Nope.
And I was seeing on Twitter that someone's like, this level is way higher. It's so underrated that these schools sometimes go down and do like exhibition contests against schools in the States and beat them consistently. Like, it's not like they're scrubs. So I think U Sports gets very underrated in my opinion, but they deserve credit.
Yeah, and so this will bring a lot of eyes to U Sports, and we'll see,
especially Canada West.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. That's definitely something to watch going forward. So
sorry for my rant.
No, it was a good time. That's why we brought it up. So another thing that happened this past week: Sidney Crosby playing in his 1000th NHL game. The highlight here was the warm up for me. Every player wearing Crosby jerseys.
That 87 behind you.
There you go. And then the players mimicking Crosby's kind of routine, which was just a fantastic tribute to clearly a good teammate and we'll get into it, maybe a top 5 player of all time.
Yeah, and the mimicking his ritual and everything, that caught him by surprise. He had no clue that they were going to do it. He didn't even know that they were all going to wear number 87 until he walked into the room before the game. Like, that was completely kept under wraps. No one knew. No one told Crosby, I guess. People probably knew, but no one told Crosby. And then he went out on the ice. He's just doing his thing, and then they all did it. Even the goalie, I think Jari was the one who was in net yesterday. Even he was doing it alongside. Obviously, he wasn't trying to retie his skates because that would just be a mess for the goalie. But he pretended, and it's just fun, and that's the kind of stuff that you want to see. That's the beauty of the game. Right?
That's the kind of stuff you want to see rather than a long, stuffy ceremony. Like the
which it was.
yeah, but I mean, I've seen far more highlights of the warm up than I have of the ceremony, which apparently
the only highlights that we've seen of the ceremony was him standing beside his girlfriend and his parents' speech. Really,
yeah. So
that's the only thing that I've seen of the actual ceremony.
Now, this is kind of brought up, and we'll get into this quickly. This is a topic that needs more time, but in our limited time that we have, is Crosby a top 5 player for you? I thought about it, and for me, he's a top 5. He's been the best player in his sport. He deserves a spot in the top 5 all-time NHL players for me.
Yeah, he's top 4 for me.
Okay.
So yes, he's top 5. I would. I just have a problem. Like, my top 2 are Gretzky and Howe, and then I have Orr and Crosby as 3, 4, and I currently still have Orr ahead just because of what he was able to do as a defenseman. But I could see if Crosby keeps doing what he's doing, he's only 33. Like, let's not forget that. This guy's not like, it's not like he's 40. He's 33. He could probably still play for like 3, 4, 5 more years the way he keeps himself in shape. So if he ends up winning more championships or something with Pittsburgh or wherever he ends up, if he gets moved from Pittsburgh, he could end up sneaking into 3, but I still have him at 4 right now.
Yeah, I got him at 5. I got Gretzky first or second. I'll put Lemieux 3rd, Howe 4th, Crosby 5th.
Lemieux's 5th for me, so it's not like we have a whole lot of difference going on there.
And Lemieux was just a tremendous player. He had so many years on bad Pittsburgh teams. I mean, if he had the benefit of Gretzky
and a short year, short career too.
Yeah, exactly. So, Nico Hischier named captain of the New Jersey Devils kind of came out of nowhere just before.
Yeah, it did.
Just before the weekend, they were like, Nico Hischier, captain of the New Jersey Devils. This guy, I mean, in my mind, it was more like this guy is kind of a number 1 overall bust. Like, he wasn't like Patrick Stefan or anything, right?
Still, I wouldn't really call him a bust.
Still a workable piece that can contribute, but it, not what you're expecting from number 1 overall pick. But obviously, I'm wrong, and New Jersey thinks highly enough of him to throw the captaincy on him.
Well, I mean, he's in his career, 135 points in 210 games. Pretty good. Like, I would take that as a player. He's obviously dealt with a little bit of injury problems in his shortened career, which is unfortunate. But the kid's a good player. They drafted him to be the next captain. Let's make that very clear. That was their goal. He was going to be whoever they picked at number 1, whether it was him or Nolan Patrick, who ended up with the Flyers. They were going to make their next captain at some point. I wasn't expecting them to name him captain this week, maybe at the end of the season, going into next season, if he could play the whole season and kind of show.
I wonder why now. Why now is that decision? It's not a problem, but why now? What makes this past weekend the time?
I think he played his first game this weekend.
Okay, so welcome back. Here's the C.
I think. Let me just confirm that. Yeah, he played his first game of the season on Saturday.
So
they named it Saturday morning that he was the captain, and he had no clue apparently. Like he was going into the rink thinking that he was going to have the assistant that he's had on it for a while now. And he showed up, and all of a sudden there was a C in his locker, and he was like, "What's going on?"
Because as soon as you get that C, for me, my first thought would be, "Oh, I'm gonna be if we ever get trouble. If we ever get to the cup, I'm the guy who's going to be handed it,
my pasty white arms,
and lifting it." So, it's now time to get to our favorite segment, the Barks and Hubie Watch.
You got it right.
There you go. I'm not calling it the tracker anymore. Barks and Hubie Watch. So this stems from a discussion before the season. I like Jonathan Huberdeau better than I like Alexander Barkov. It doesn't mean Barkov is a piece of garbage. He's a great player. I just like Hubie better. Nick didn't take it that way. And now each week we have the Barks and Hubie Watch. So lay it on us, Nick. How did they do this week?
Ryan, don't act like you don't like the Barks and Hubie Watch. You love it. So don't give me that.
Huge fan of it, Nick. I'm waiting for the information here.
All right. Well, they played 4 games this week. Did the Florida Panthers. They won 3 of them. They actually lost 2-1 to Detroit on Saturday. So that's kind of unfortunate. But in those 4 games, both of the guys played pretty well outside of the last one. So, I mean, if we want to take that last one out and pretend they only played 3 games, the numbers look even better, Ryan.
If you lose to Detroit, you played bad.
Or Detroit's goalies stood on their head. I'm not really sure. I didn't watch that one. No. There was other games being played.
It's Detroit. I'm not watching that.
But Alexander Barkov in the 4 games ended up with 6 points, 2 goals, 4 assists. He was a +4 across the week, which I know a lot of people don't like plus minus, but in the grand scheme of things, it's actually good to talk about. 1 game, he only was on the ice for 14-18, but other than that, every other game was 20+. So I'm not really sure what happened in the first Detroit game where he only played 14-18.
Depends I haven't seen the stats, so it depends what the score is. Maybe they rest him, maybe gets hit with the puck. Anyways, so 6 points for Barkov. How'd Hubie do?
And Hubie did one better. He actually added an extra goal, so he had 7 points in the week and was also a +4 in the 4 games, but he was a negative in the game on Saturday. He also only averaged 12.3 or 12:38 ice time in that first game against Detroit, and then he had a couple shorter games, 16-12, 17-03, and then the one on Saturday he played 20-45. So I'm not really sure what those first 3 games, why he was playing less than 18 minutes, but
and then they switched it up and lost to the Red Wings. So there we go.
Well, hold on. Barkov also played 21 minutes in that game. So
okay. All right. So
it was just the first Detroit game that they both played like nothing. I guess they won big or something.
That was the Barks and Hubie Watch. We'll be keeping an eye on both these excellent players as the season rolls on.
They won 7-2.
Yeah, there you go. There's some reason for this.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, you know what? The Panthers are having a great year, so it's actually fun to watch these players and give them the spotlight that they normally wouldn't get in the bigger markets because people aren't paying attention to the Panthers.
Well, I was talking about it on Garage Door Sports this weekend, and we said who were the surprise teams, and I said Florida is a surprise team. They were first in the division. I think they still are now, despite the 2 days. And they're just getting production from everywhere. Everyone is producing. They all have bought into the Joel Quenneville system. And they're getting good goaltending. And that's the key. If you can get good goaltending and everyone buys in, it's Dallas Stars all over again, right?
Good goaltending from 2 goaltenders as well. So
I wouldn't really say 2, but 1.
1 goalie and a big contract. So we got a lot to cover on the show and a big interview coming up. So let's get right into the heart of the episode. Coming right up, we interviewed Mike Battah, who is the co-director of scouting for the OHL's Erie Otters. He was kind enough to come on with us. He's been a longtime friend of mine personally. We got to have a nice chat with him. We talked about how he scouts, what they've been doing this year with COVID, his thoughts on the draft. And I started off the interview by asking him what his normal duties are during a normal year when COVID isn't around.
Yeah, so in a normal season, I guess comparatively across the league, our scouting staff is kind of small, I guess, which is nice. I guess in my role is kind of just connecting the dots and keeping all of our area scouts in line with our team philosophies and what we're looking for. And really just helping scouting across the province and the United States, right? And the way it breaks down is we have guys in each area watching each league, and then myself and another guy named Devin, who's my co-director. We jump in where we have to, and just sort of have oversight of the department alongside with our general manager.
You mentioned the co-directors and you guys having to jump in. How often do you get out to a game as the co-director of scouting for your team?
So we're pretty lucky. I'm in a regular year, I'm probably in the rink 5-6 nights a week. There's often times where you're in multiple rinks in a day, right? And the GTHL, for example, is pretty good. With afternoon games on a weekend. So you may be in Toronto on a 1:00 game, and then you grab a quick bite to eat for lunch, and you're in. You could be in Kingston at 8 p.m. or Barrie at 7 p.m. whatever it is, right? So, on average, you're usually about five, six times a week, and I'm fortunate where I live. I'm pretty close to all the areas, right? So I can kind of get to where I need to go.
So as co-director of scouting, and you mentioned you'd have people who work for you, I assume you divide up the areas as to who is going to cover what area for scouting?
Yeah. So, so for example, there's the ETA, the Eastern AAA League, which is, your Ajax Pickerings and Whitby and pretty much, it's north to Barrie and east to Kingston. So that we have a guy that looks after that league, and then GTHL has its own guy. The Alliance, which is the London area, they have their own guy. The SCTA, which is, the Oakvilles of the world, they're usually the powerhouse out that way. And then we have two guys in the States, a guy up north and a guy out in Ottawa.
How has COVID kind of affected your team and the ability to scout this year? Obviously, a lot of these leagues aren't necessarily going or started up a little bit and then shut down. How has it kind of affected your team?
It's funny. I think it's a couple of things, because we went through the draft last year virtually, right? Because the draft is June, and we were, full lockdowns. And so I think it kind of started then, where we kind of realized that, what we're doing here, like, you can use technology to help you. Every team in the league ran the draft through Zoom or GoToMeeting or whatever it was. So I think this year it's been very reliant on technology with video. You're at the mercy of who's filming, I was watching a game the other night, and every time the camera pans to the one end zone, there's a great big pillar that the person filming they're in a press box of some sort. So you've got the big pillar blocking half review. So it's been that a lot of video. There has been a lot. Some teams out, like Ottawa, just started back up playing. They're fully playing. The U.S. teams have been. Some of those U.S. minor midget teams have played 50 games already this year, right?
Right.
But in Ontario, it's been a challenge, because some teams are, even some teams that are skating, they're only allowed to play inter-squad games. And then some don't even allow spectators in the building, right? So you're kind of at the mercy of, what they're legally allowed to do. So anyway, it's just changed that in the sense of, you're relying a little bit more on technology and being more adaptable. Whereas before, you would plan your whole week. Some guys plan their whole month, right, based around their jobs and everything else. And now you're kind of, you get a call from a coach at 5:00 saying, "Hey, we have a skate at 7. We're allowed to have 10 guys come out and watch. Can you make it?" Right. So it's just, that's kind of changed it the most, I think, for us.
Right. With all the, I guess, challenges this year that everyone's facing, there's been rumors that the NHL would postpone their draft to next summer. Have you heard any similar rumors, or what are your thoughts on the upcoming OHL draft? And do you guys need more time? Do you need to see players more?
I think every team's probably in a different boat right now, right? Like, sorry, I think I said earlier the draft's in June. The draft's typically in April, but it's already been pushed back to May. Then there's, who knows what goes from there. So it has already been pushed back to allow for more time. I think the hope is that, at some point we're out of our lockdowns and everyone gets enough viewing. But I don't know. I think every team's planning as if it's happening, and that's, it'd be kind of foolish not to, until they tell us otherwise, right? But yeah, I mean, I'm confident with where we're at as an organization that we've seen. You always want to see more viewings, right? But the nice thing is everyone's kind of in the same boat, right? So it's not as if there's a team in the league that's getting to watch these guys in some underground game somewhere or something, right? Like everyone's doing the same thing. So
under the table payoff action, trying to get more games in.
Yeah.
Ryan made a good point about the NHL draft possibly getting pushed an entire year. How do you think that would affect some of the players on your team? Obviously, you know these guys really well from going through the scouting process and being around them. How do you think that's going to affect some of the older players on the Otters themselves?
I think it's obviously challenging and disappointing if that's the way it goes, right? But I think everyone, as long as it's an equal playing field for everybody, I think it's not ideal, but it's I hate the saying, it is what it is, but it's kind of what you have to deal with. And I think it's been the last year has been a good test of everybody's, ability to overcome adversity. And I think athletes and hockey players especially are pretty good at overcoming adversity anyways, right? So it's just one more thing to kind of add to the list if that's the way it goes. And, it's funny, like I was just on the ice before getting on here, and at this point, guys are just happy to be out skating, right? And they're just, be it, major junior players or, 6-year-old kids, right? They just want to be with their friends again and be on the ice. So I think if there's another roadblock thrown at them, they deal with it. And as long as it's an even playing field for everybody, it's just another obstacle that, on the long list of things over the years, right?
Yep. Yeah. When you go out to a game, how many, and you're doing your scouting, how many players are you generally looking at during the game? And then after that, I have a general idea, but just how do you guys share all that information? How do you gather it into a central area?
Yeah. So I think who you're looking at and what, is dependent on when you're watching them, right? Early in the season, I kind of always like to think it's a clean slate. And, if you go in based on what a player did last year or their reputation, you're kind of cutting yourself short of seeing someone that, you never knew existed. Right. So I think at the kind of first 3 months of the season, you're kind of hoping guys come to you. Right. And, show me what you got kind of thing. And yeah, eventually as you get deeper in the year, you kind of have an idea of who you like and who fits your organization. And that's when you kind of start zoning in on certain guys, right? So, you may be, say in January, February, you may be going into the rink, and you're focusing on, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys, whereas at the beginning of the year, you're looking at 40, right? Or, and then how it all gets put together, there's a program called RinkNet that all the CHL teams use and the NHL teams are on it. And it's kind of a central database for all the players. And, we do our scheduling on there, and you get, you click on a day, it'll show you all the games that you can go watch. So when games are done, the idea is you get home and you do your report on RinkNet, and then it all gets sort of put together on a central internal database for each team. And then, when we host our meetings, obviously we meet throughout the year, all the guys' reports kind of get put together, and it creates a list of sorts that you can kind of go through. And that's sort of how it all gets put together.
Nice. Look, sounds efficient, at least.
You know what? It's funny. It's actually, if you can picture like an inventory program at like a hardware store or something. It has that kind of, it's not pretty. It doesn't, aesthetically, it's not very nice, but it's very efficient. And I would imagine as you get higher up in leagues, the info that's on there from, if you're an NHL team and say you have scouts watching minor hockey, you'd really be able to go back and see reports on this player from when they were 15 years old versus when they're 20, right? So
yeah, it's helpful for sure.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask more of a personal question for you because I always like asking this about scouts. Obviously, you've seen an incredible number of players over the years, whether in your role now or as a scout. Who was some of the most entertaining players to scout and just watch at the minor level? Not necessarily when they got to the O or when they moved on, but when they were at the minor level.
In recent years, I mean, there's so many. There's always the guys that just wow you, right? And the easy answer is Connor McDavid, right? I remember it's funny. You look at the Whitby Silver Sticks, one of the big minor midget tournaments, right? And I remember him being there playing, and you've got 6 rinks going, and you look in one rink, and it's there may be 3 or 4 guys watching, and you look at the rink where the Marlies would have been playing when he was playing for them, and there'd be 500 people in there watching the game, in a rink that holds 200, right? So he was one that jumped out, past that, a guy like Quentin Byfield was pretty impressive in minor hockey. Jamie Drysdale, who plays with us, is probably the best defenseman I've seen playing minor hockey. And he just sort of showed it on the world stage recently too, right? Those are kind of the 3 guys that really jump out at me. And then there's guys that are entertaining for different reasons too, right? And guys that just have character and personality, and they never really become household names, but they were fun to watch in minor midget just because they had, they kind of wore their heart on their sleeve kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I played against you for a year in house league, and I know you played double A. I mean, in our year in house league, we had great battles such as orange versus yellow. That was fantastic, but
high quality battle, high quality.
Yeah, I know you played some double A hockey as well. So how does someone like you who didn't necessarily play a super elite level get noticed and end up in the world of scouting?
Yeah, so there was a time where, again, when I had realized I wasn't going to make it as a player, I got into refereeing, if you remember that. And then there was a time where I was coaching minor hockey and refereeing at the same time. The reffing side of it started going really well, and I became a supervisor of referees, which meant you had to quit coaching. It was considered a conflict of interest.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I spent a bunch of years reffing and moving up the referee program and supervising still. And I really missed the coaching aspect of it. And so that was when I knew I couldn't do it in minor hockey, but I reached out to Frank Robinson, who Ryan, and he was the GM of the Whitby Fury at the time. I just said, hey, I want to get back involved here, and anything you think I can do. And he said, well, I'm looking for an assistant GM if that's something that you'd be interested in. And, Frank taught me how to skate, right? So I've known, he knew who I was about. And anyway, long before you know it, I was the assistant GM of the Whitby Fury. And, it's set that the title sounds a lot more exciting than what a position like that is in Tier 2 hockey. But yeah, it spent 3 years with the Fury doing that, and which really gave you a good opportunity to really network and get to know people. And at that time, we had a really good team. In the second year we went to the finals. We had a player named Devin Shore playing for us, who is in the NHL now. But at that time, he was obviously undrafted, and you have all these NHL scouts coming in, and it was just a lot of buzz around the team. So it was really kind of opened my eyes to, what's out there in the scouting world. And anyways, I eventually ended up reaching out to Dave Brown, who's our GM currently, and he was obviously with the Otters then. And I had a connection to Dave from before, but we didn't really know each other. And I just said, hey, it's this is what I've been up to, this is what I've been doing, and this is what I'm looking to do. And timing was on my side. They had just the guy that was doing the ETA that area before was no longer with them, and a week later I was an Otter. So it honestly really happened. It happened kind of fast, and it was about networking and sort of getting your hands dirty and your feet wet and at the Tier 2 level, right, before you move up.
For sure. No, that's sometimes those kind of stories are the best, the ones that just kind of happen quickly out of the blue and you're not really expecting it, right?
Absolutely. And then, well, and the funny thing is, like, you look at, I think about my time with the Fury, and again, you're assistant GM, it sounds like you're, making deals and moving and shaking and all that stuff. And while there was certainly the player personnel side of it, you had to do everything, and it's, if the 50-50 guy that sells the 50-50 tickets doesn't show up that night, guess who's selling 50-50 tickets?
Yep.
Right.
How'd that go?
I remember being on the ice, picking up chuck-a-pucks. Right. And it's, that's just what you have to do. You got to walk before you run, and sort of, if you want to use the term, pay your dues. That's, it's, but that, it really sort of helped me anyways, professionally. That's for sure.
Awesome. Well, I mean, as I mentioned, Mike, I've known you for ages before we started recording. I know you as Michael, so it was very awkward for me to conduct this with you as Mike, but we appreciate your time and answering our questions, and thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no, awesome. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Absolutely. I was co-director of scouting for the OHL's Erie Otters, Mike Battah.
Hey guys, I'm Gabe Ferraro.
And I'm Logan Lockhart from Between the Uprights on the Garage Door Sports Network.
We cover everything football, from NFL, CFL, and all off-season storylines. We make our weekly picks during the season and cover every headline in the off-season.
Check us out on the shows tab at GarageDoorSports.com for our weekly episodes.
We're back. 20 minutes on ice. We'd like to thank Mike Battah for joining us, co-director of scouting for the OHL's Erie Otters. Nick, this past weekend, the biggest story had to have been the outdoor games, NHL Outdoors at Lake Tahoe, the Saturday game, Colorado Vegas, the Sunday game, Boston Philly. Let's start with that Saturday game, Colorado Vegas. So it starts off looking phenomenal. All the pictures coming out of it, even from the day before with practice.
Yeah.
Then the game starts, and it quickly looks like this thing could go off the rails as we have players dangerously tripping.
Hold on. Let's not just say players. We have to include the referees too, because they were putting themselves in some pretty awkward positions just because of the situation.
Yeah, and obviously the biggest issue was at center ice, the dark colors in the logo.
Any spot that there was color underneath the ice, so like the blue lines, the dots in the neutral zone. I think even the blue ice under the goalies, but I think that was protected a little bit because the goalies were standing on top of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, I tweeted out from the 20 Minutes Twitter account, that the ice was going to be an issue, and it quickly became an issue. They were trying to do patchwork, and they finally got through the period. And then, of course, we get the 8-hour delay. And for us on the East Coast,
well, it was going to be 10 minutes. They
Yeah.
hadn't started the clock, and then it was going to be 15 minutes before the decision. Then about a half hour later, we came back with, there's still like 10 more minutes before we make a decision whether or not we're starting the intermission clock. So now we're at like 5 o'clock at this point, 4:30, 5 o'clock. And then they're like, yeah, we're pushing this till midnight. We're okay.
9 p.m. local time, and it gave them essentially, that would have given them a full working day to get the ice back into condition. But you know what? When they came back, the ice was in playable condition.
Really good condition by the looks of it.
There were no issues to be seen, and they took care of it. And yeah, you lost the mountain view and the broad landscape when night fell, but those trees right by center ice really did a great job at the camera angle, the low camera angle. But it was just at a perfect point. Like the glass wasn't in the way. I just thought overall the visuals from the first game were fantastic. It was everything that the NHL could hope for. And then the second game with the sun going down, and it was a little bit darker. It wasn't ideal for TV, but it was still something to behold. You could still see the mountains. I just thought overall, visually, this game was a big win.
Yeah, I think it was. And everyone was saying, well, the league had to try something. They needed to try to go out and be adventurous or whatever. Everyone was saying that they're always too cautious. Well, they tried. And had the weather gone the way it was supposed to, with a bit of cloud cover over the actual rink, it would have been fine.
Mm-hmm.
it's an unfortunate situation, but I think everyone handled it really well. Because of the delay, we got probably the best picture, in my opinion, that I saw was the Colorado Avalanche players half dressed in their Avs hoodies with their Avs masks on, sitting outside like it was a kids tournament. Like it throws me back to that time where you're just like half dressed in the rink watching other games, right? That just looked like what it was, and it was awesome. It made you feel like when you go out and play on an outdoor rink with your buddy. Someone's always sitting on the side, just grabbing a drink. Everyone else is skating around. It looked like that, which is the whole point of what this was, is that it's supposed to be a true outdoor rink atmosphere where there's no other people, right? Like that's all it was, which was really, really cool. And by the time the game continued in the second period at midnight, I thought it actually looked really, really nice. The contrasting jersey colors were perfect. I know the white with the red. I'm not a big fan of the Vegas Golden Knights reverse retros, but I think they matched well against the Colorado ones because there's like the off red in Colorado. I know it's not red, but like you know what I mean.
Burgundy.
And
yeah.
No, but you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
it's not a red, but it sort of has like that red tinge to it.
Yep.
So it kind of looked opposite of what Vegas was. So I thought it looked really, really good.
It was phenomenal. Like, so I'm so glad they got the afternoon with the sunshine out as well. Like that really helped. It looks so cool. Unfortunately, the ice fell apart, but they saved it. It's not like they had to cancel the game and bring it indoors.
Which was the conversation at one point. They might have to push it to the next day or cancel it. But no, they did exactly what they needed to do.
Yeah, and those options would have been fun too. Like there's no, you don't have to answer to any fans here except for the ones that are going to watch on TV. So when they replayed the game or restarted the game back up again at midnight Eastern time, 9 p.m. Pacific time where they were playing, it was kind of like kids staying out late on the pond. You know, mom's calling them in for dinner.
Exactly.
Mom's calling them in because it's bedtime, but they're still out there. They're still out there playing. And then another option was to come back early the next morning and play it before
At like 6 or 7.
before the Boston Phillies.
It's like no.
And that would have been fantastic because that would have been
Awful hockey.
It could have been. It could have been.
That would have been awful. The refs aren't even awake.
But it goes back to the days of, U7 kids having those 6 a.m. practices, falling out of bed, getting dressed at home, stumbling into the rink. So
Sitting in the car with their hot chocolate.
that would have been cool. And then the Boston Philly game provided something different. I was worried about them starting at 4 p.m. Pacific time. That's their local time, but it gave a different visual. You have the sun setting behind the mountains. It wasn't ideal for camera work, but it didn't take away from the game. And then they finished the game in the darkness again. So I just really thought a ton of character with this game, with both games and the whole event to begin with, which makes me think we're expecting fans to be back next season. Is there a way to bring this event back?
I think there's a way. And the original plan was to actually go to Lake Louise. I was obviously mentioned about 150 times on the broadcast, which is fine. I think that's probably still a goal for the league, is to do a Lake Louise thing. And maybe instead of having like the setup that we've seen in past outdoor games where it's like a big stadium and stuff, there's not really stands, but you have like I can't remember the guy's name. One of the broadcast guys who was just kind of like running around on the outside, the NASCAR guy.
Forget him.
But you know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I forgot.
But like
his name,
with the fire pits and stuff like that, and all the games that were going on out and around, like that would be really cool to keep having people on the slopes, right? Like you could sit them up on the slopes around Lake Louise and just have that kind of go that way. I think it would be a cool experience. It wouldn't necessarily be the revenue giant for tickets that the NHL might want, but the amount of merchandise you'd be able to sell out that game if people were allowed around it would have just been astronomical.
The true value could be the extra eyes you get on the product. Because even I saw ESPN tweet out photos of the first game, and that's huge when the national.
And thank God the Vegas Golden Knights didn't wear their stupid, awful gold helmets. I was so worried. Special game, we're gonna pull out the gold helmet. No, thank God they didn't.
Yeah, those should be held
awful.
back for their gold uniforms. But I mean, Colorado ends up winning the first game.
Yeah,
And,
they do.
Yeah, I thought the McKinnon end-to-end goal was fantastic, and they even had McKinnon comes down the right wing, snaps it far side, top corner over Fleury's blocker, but the defenseman he was coming down on was Pietrangelo, who was mic'd up, and as soon as McKinnon circles back in his own zone, you hear Pietrangelo go, "Oh no." And it's exactly what happened. McKinnon.
Don't give him space, guys. Sit on him.
As far as the actual gameplay, I don't know if you saw both games. I happened to see parts of both games.
I saw the first one. I didn't see the second one. I actually stayed up to watch that Colorado game.
I don't think anything was affected by the outdoor atmosphere. I mean, in the Boston-Philly game, there were a lot of sticks breaking because of the cold weather, but I didn't feel like anyone had to, just chip the puck and grind it out. Like you could play an actual hockey game trying to move the puck around quickly with passing and break down the defensive structure.
Well, listen, like in that, I can only speak to the Colorado game, and that's where I'm at. The end of the first period, obviously, it was a little bit more just your puck would get stuck, or the player's skate would get stuck. So there was a little bit more pushing that way. But even then, like it wasn't like, especially when they were on the white ice in the offensive zone, there was really no issue. It was just when you were trying to cross the blue line or you got to like the goal line in the corners, right, that there was an issue. So I thought it was actually very good hockey. That second period, I think there was a power play for Colorado where they were just firing the puck around. And I was just like, holy crap, I love watching this. It was like, I don't know if you remember like early 2000s Leafs when they had the power play unit that would just fire passes around over and over and over again, right? It was fun to watch until they forgot that they were allowed to shoot the puck.
I'm enjoying the Leafs power play nowadays.
Yeah, the Leafs power play nowadays is pretty much the same way, but I was trying to like harken back to the past.
Yeah.
The only difference is that the two that are now actually know how to shoot the puck, and the Leafs back then did not. Just saying, Ryan.
Okay, you're not wrong, but I mean, I just thought the hockey was really good overall. A big win for the league, a great event. The delay, it took you off national TV, and that was kind of a hit. But overall, this event, that's going to be remembered as part of the character of the event. And
it's COVID year too. Like anything could have gone wrong, and they still would have been able to pull this off.
Yeah, it was just a big win there. So good job to the NHL. Anyone who's ragging on them because the sun was out, like, you know what?
That's the other thing. Like I was expecting to see a lot more hate, and I didn't really see it that much. Like, oh, well, how did you not know the weather? Well, they did, and it was supposed to be cloudy.
And guess what? They handled it. Like, what else are you supposed to do?
But for the most part, like everyone is pretty proud of what the NHL pulled off.
Yeah. So definitely a positive event there from the NHL. And I would love to see this come back next year or some sort of I need to see this again. Give me a landscape with minimal fans, bare minimum fans, and some
or
quality.
Lots of fans in the background. Like not necessarily at the actual rink, but like in the background, on the slopes, something.
Yeah, on the boats, like they were.
The boats was cool.
Yeah, the boats.
I love that.
Yep, all that kind of stuff. So we want to see more of that, and then hopefully we will going forward. So we want to see the NHL Outdoors come back. We will be coming back right after this. Welcome back. 20 minutes on ice. Ryan Hazlitt, Nick McVicker, and it is time now for our players of the week. Nick, as we do every week now, we have Rookie of the Week, Player of the Week, and Goalie of the Week. Let's start off with our Rookies of the Week, and I went first last week, so Nick, you get to go first this week. Who is your Rookie of the Week?
You're so kind, Ryan. Are you sure? Like, I don't mind. You can go first if you want.
It's already been set in stone. You must go first, Nick.
Fine. Jeez, be that way. Well, my rookie of the week is coming from a team that is playing great hockey right now, the LA Kings. And I feel weird saying that the LA Kings are playing great hockey, but they are. And they played 3 games this week, picked up 3 wins, and Gabe Vilardi, the forward, like Team Canada standout at some of the World Juniors the last 2 years, has looked good. He's finally found a spot, and he picked up a goal, 2 assists in the game. He was playing more than 15 minutes in 2 of the games, and he played 12 minutes their game on Saturday. Don't know why all of a sudden he dropped that much. They only won 4-2, so can't really say anything about that. But he's producing at the top level finally. Picked up game-winning goal in the game on Saturday as well after only playing 12 minutes. So good for him. He deserves his spot as the rookie of the week in my mind.
The Los Angeles Kings are going to be that team, I feel, like Chicago or like the reputation of Toronto, where they just have so many great young players. And eventually it's going to get to the point where they're just coming at you wave after wave, and teams won't be able to handle the Kings in a couple of years. So my rookie of the year from the Carolina Hurricanes, defenseman Jake Bean.
Wow, already calling your rookie of the year. I love it.
Pardon me, rookie of the week. I misspoke. I might calling my shot from a distance, but
done. Rookie of the year. Ryan's done for the year. He's not putting another one in.
He's 4 games played, 4 assists, so that gives him season totals of 7 games played and 4 assists. But he was also this week a +4, huge for a rookie defenseman when you can put up positive numbers like that. I love the +4. He's playing average ice time just under 13 minutes per game right now. So limited time, but he's doing a lot with his limited time. And I think these are important things to highlight with a rookie. So Jake Bean, my rookie of the week.
Jake Bean is a great prospect. I was surprised that you didn't really know him before this week.
I'm not good with the prospects, Nick.
He's a top prospect. If anyone plays the NHL video game, always pick up Jake Bean if you can, because he's so valuable. It gets to like 90 overall some years if you can play him well. One of those players that I think is going to be a stud defenseman in a year or two.
Carolina has a lot of those, and it seems they keep coming through.
They
Carolina.
just keep pulling them out. They lose one, another one comes out of nowhere.
Goalie of the week, Nick. Again, you're up first.
Okay, well, I'm having a little bit of a cop-out answer, but we talked about this before, and you were okay with it. I'm actually going with the duo of the Kings. And clearly I'm on a Kings push today. But Cal Peterson and Jonathan Quick have looked fantastic this week. 3 games, 3 wins. Quick picked up a shutout. He has a .960 save percentage in the 2 games that he has played, only given up 1 goal, which is ridiculous. And he has a .96 goals against average because one of the games went to overtime.
Perfect.
Mind blowing to me. And Peterson for his part, only gave up 2 goals in his 2 goals in his 1 start, a .917 save percentage. So as a tandem, they've only given up 3 goals this week in 3 games. You take that every day as a coach.
I love positive things happening for the Kings, and Peterson has the best looking mask when the Kings wear their reverse retros. So happy to see him do well.
By the way, speaking of masks, Fleury's mask, I don't know why it looked awful to me in the
outdoor game.
I don't know why I did not like it.
He's got several masks that he just seems to cycle through. So, and all the goalies change them constantly now. So,
yeah,
it's going to be a new design soon anyway. My goalie of the week from the Florida Panthers, Chris Drieger, 3 games played. He won all 3. 908 save percentage. I'd like to see that a little bit higher, but when you've won all 3 of those games, that doesn't matter too much. And a 2.96 goals against average in those 3 games. Bobrovsky brought in on the big contract, so far not living up to it. And Drieger's just like, yeah, okay, I can be your guy. You pay me,
okay.
Yeah, I'll make a small fraction of that and show you how it's done. Step aside, sir guy. So Chris,
and he's done exactly that. And I'm going to go to season stats just because I think it's incredible to look at this. Bobrovsky has a 318 goals against average, which, let's be honest, isn't horrible in the current NHL just because a lot of teams are scoring more. So I'm not going to rip on him for the 318 goals against. 889 save percentage, though, that is not good enough, and that needs to improve. Whereas Drieger has a 235 goals against average and a 926 save percentage with 6 wins and only 1 regulation loss.
he's pushing Bobrovsky, and Bobrovsky is lucky.
He's beat Bobrovsky. He's beaten Bobrovsky down, basically.
Yeah, and Bobrovsky's just lucky he has that contract, because in any other situation, it would be Drieger's net. And
actually, I can't say he's beat Bobrovsky down because Bobrovsky has 5 wins in 8 games.
Okay, but
did we realize? Like I didn't actually click into my head, but that's because Florida is just playing so well.
Yeah, and I would more put that on the team, because I wouldn't say that Bobrovsky's had the last 3 seasons. You're kind of like, I don't know. So it is now time for our players of the week. Nick, I feel like there's only 2 choices here, but you can go first and see if I'm right on that one.
Listen, I saw this conversation being had on Twitter on Saturday night, and everyone was talking about Matthews and McDavid, and that's fine. We have to give a shout out to McKinnon because he's actually played pretty well this week. But no, you're right. This week, unfortunately, there's 2 answers. I'm going to give one. You're going to give the other one. I think we could have flipped and done the same thing and given the other one, but I'll start with McDavid. I think someone pissed him off or something at the beginning of the season because he's just on an absolute tear. Someone said something to him that he's no longer the best player in the world, and he took that personally.
Michael Jordan.
I don't know if you saw my tweet on Saturday night, Ryan, but I did the
you did the Michael Jordan
I
meme.
took that personally because everyone's talking about Matthews being the MVP. No. McDavid is not done with the conversation. 9 points in 4 games this week. The Oilers actually won 3 of those games. A hat trick and 5 points total Saturday night through half the game.
And then,
like he had that with 10-13 left to go in the third.
Yeah.
Or in the second.
In the second. Yeah.
Just incredible. He is ridiculously good. The no-look shot for the goal was sickening as a goalie.
The Oilers even tweeted out after that it was something along the lines of, he didn't even look.
It's because he didn't. He looked at the blue line. If you watch that play, he looked at the blue line, maybe took a half-second look back just at the top of the circle, walked into the dot, and just ripped it past the goalie. And he had no chance.
So my player of the week then obviously becomes Austin Matthews. This week, 7 goals, 12 points. 4 of his goals were on the power play, and currently, as of recording, he is riding a 16-game point streak. And they're point streak. Yeah. They're mostly all goals, but it's getting to the point where I'm watching each Leaf game as a Leaf fan, and you're thinking, okay, it's an awesome run. How can you expect him to continue the points run? And then he goes out there and he's, scores the first goal of the game, gets out there and just goes, I'm scoring tonight, and just walks in and fires the puck in the net. And he is on fire right now. Everything is going his way. I believe during the Saturday broadcast of Hockey Night in Canada, I had heard that at some point, 7 of his last 14 shots were goals. So that is ridiculous. I mean, can you imagine if they just let this guy shoot all day? Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid, both worthy of player of the week this week. And it's fantastic to have the best players in the NHL battling it out to be the best. I think that's fantastic.
Absolutely. And in Matthews' last 4 games where he has those 7 goals, Ryan, he's taken 15 shots.
Wow. Just half of them are going in. And
half of them are going in. There was one game where his shooting percentage was not 50%. That was the first game. He had 2 goals in that game on 5 shots.
He's done so well, you can't expect more out of him, but now every time he has the puck in the offensive zone, you almost expect a goal at this point.
I have a great story from Saturday night because I was watching part of the game with my father. And my dad, I don't know when I happened to do this, but I got my dad into betting.
No
and
way.
my dad decided that today he was putting 3 bets on the Leaf game. And I'm like, okay, like, what are your 3 bets? His 3 bets were Austin Matthews to score anytime, which paid out like $1.50. He had Austin Matthews to score the first goal, and then he had Austin Matthews to score the last goal. Like, he was just banking Austin Matthews. He didn't get the last one. He got the first 2. He did not get the last one, but I just thought it was hilarious. Like, my dad put 3 bets on the game. 2 of them paid out with 1 goal. Just,
They were all reasonable bets. All right.
oh, absolutely. But that's the thing. Like, now you go into a Leaf game, you kind of just want to put money on Matthews scoring because it's probably going to happen.
Yeah. Hopefully when it stops, it doesn't dry up and he just can bounce back.
But
so.
the real conversation is he going to get 50 this year? Like, it is looking, the way his game is going, he's getting better and better. The last 7 goals in 4 games, like, that's ridiculous. It's possible. It's not out of the realm of possibility this year that he might get to 50. It's unlikely just because of the ridiculous pace that he would have to keep up. But he's at a goal a game right now, which would put him 5th all time in goals per game in a season. 5th.
He's this is fantastic to watch for the game. Watching these guys, is McDavid going to get to 100 points in a shortened season?
Which he might too, which is stupid.
So it's just going to be fantastic to watch, and we are having fun watching them. So, Nick, here we go. 3 hot, 3 not. This week you have hot. This week I have not.
Which means you start.
You started Players of the Week, so I will start the not segment.
Well,
so
we've also just established that we go not first so that we can end on the high.
Yeah, got to end on the high note. So, my third worst team, and all 3 of these teams, it's like, oh yeah, of course they're there. These are typical teams. So, Buffalo Sabres, my number 3 not hot team. They went 1-3. They started the week off though with 3 straight losses: 2 to the Islanders, 1 to the Capitals. They can't score a goal. They have 5 goals for all week. Their goals against wasn't bad. It was 11. Here's the bad stats: 62% on the penalty kill, and that's not going to get it done anytime. And they wasted a great week on the power play at just under 43%. So the Buffalo Sabres are my number 3 team. That was appropriate for them. The number 2 team.
That's why I was just trying to help.
Yeah, this is great. We're going to record those sound effects for future segments. Perfect. Number 2 team, Detroit Red Wings. We already mentioned that
Those dead things.
They played Florida. They did have 1 win against Florida, an overtime loss against Chicago, and then 2 regulation losses, 1 against Chicago, 1 against Florida. But this team is terrible. 6 goals for in those 4 games, 13 against, 0% on the power play all week in those 4 games, and only 72.7% penalty killing. Every single stat that I just mentioned leads to not winning hockey games. Detroit Red Wings. And my worst team of the week, the not Anaheim Ducks, 0-3 in those 3 games, only scoring 4 goals, 0% on the power play, 77.8% on the PK. Again, not good. You need to be up above 80%. They lost to San Jose and 2 to Minnesota. So the Anaheim Ducks, not hot. All right, Nick, cheer us up.
That's my new favorite thing.
Cheer us up. Who's the 3 hot teams around the league this week?
So, coming in at number 3, we actually have the Edmonton Oilers. And I know they did lose their first game of the week against Winnipeg. That's 6-5 game, but that was an entertaining game. Like, let's not deny that fact. That was fun. Then they went on to beat Edmonton the next game, 3-2, and they beat Calgary twice. Now, the first game, 2-1, wasn't their best showing, I'll be honest. But then they came out Saturday night and said, ha-ha, or I should correct that. McDavid said, ha-ha, we're not taking any crap from you today. And decided to just absolutely plaster Jacob Markstrom and even Rittich when he came in. 7-1 final. McDavid with 5 points, just proving that he's the MVP that he thinks he is. And that people should think he is.
Yeah, absolutely. Edmonton's put themselves in second place in the North Division as of this recording.
And I think honestly, as much as I want Koskinen to figure it out in Edmonton, I don't think he's going to. The Edmonton Oilers are legitimately a top goaltender away from competing at the top of the division with the Leafs. Just because of the current divisions. After that, the rest of the division is not even close at this point. I think the Oilers would separate themselves drastically with a top goaltender.
Teams definitely
That's what
are.
I'm saying, Ryan.
Teams are definitely separating themselves right now as it is, and Edmonton's moving up, so that's good.
Edmonton is moving up. My number 2 team, also hailing from the North Division, and no, this is not a homer pick. It's the Maple Leafs. The Maple Buds won 3 games this week. Yes, I know they lost to Ottawa, but
people have forgotten about that now. They played so well, people forgot about that one.
They also played good up until the 5th goal in that game.
Yep.
They were looking very good. And we have to give Ottawa credit. That is the exact game. I told you this. You and me had this conversation this week. That is the exact game that the Ottawa Senators need to play this year. Listen, they're not going to beat many teams outright. It's just not going to happen. But what you need to do is be resilient, and that's exactly what Ottawa did. So if we take that game out of the picture, the Leafs then went on to beat Ottawa 2-1, beat Ottawa 7-3, and beat Montreal 5-3. And they dominated that Montreal game, in my opinion. There was a stretch in the end of the first period where the Leafs couldn't get out of their zone, but Montreal didn't really do a whole lot. Freddie made some big saves. I will give him credit, but they weren't like hounding the Leafs. After the intermission, it was all Leafs. I know Montreal got 2 goals in like the third period, but it was all Leafs. Like they dominated that game. They dominated the game on Thursday against Ottawa as well, and they are looking like the cream of the crop in the not so great North Division.
They are winning. It's great to see them win. Really, you got to be impressed with all aspects. I think they've gotten better defensively. I'm not saying they're the best team defensively. They have improved. And I would just like to see them tighten it up a little bit defensively as they showed at the beginning of the season. But yeah, Toronto's riding high right now.
Absolutely. And the number 1 team of the week, I've only mentioned them about 150 times, but it feels like I've said this, the LA Kings. And why are the LA Kings the number 1 team of the week? Well, they're undefeated this week. And to go back even further, they've won 4 straight hockey games, one of them against San Jose. So it's just like that.
You got to beat the teams you play.
That was the first one anyway. And then they went and beat the Minnesota Wild 4-0. That was the shutout game for Jonathan Quick, and he looked very good in that game. And the team in front of him also looked very good. And then they won back-to-back games against the Coyotes, who were looking better, and they still actually look good in those 2 games, but the Kings just look better than the Coyotes. So give the Kings credit. They're finding their role in that West Division. And if I'm correct, which I believe I am, they're sitting in a playoff spot as of right now, as of the recording.
Sitting in 4th as of Sunday.
And let's be honest, the top 3 spots were determined before the season even started. So it's really a battle for 4th, and they're there.
Yeah, Colorado, Vegas, St. Louis, everyone's very confident that those teams will be there. But I'm a Kings fan. I like the Kings, so to see them do well is
Burger King. I know
is a positive thing. I like the LA Kings. So that was our 3 hot, 3 not. Sponsored by water. Gotta love water. Thanks, water. 3 hot, 3 not. Nick, let's fire up the randomizer to see what we'll be doing this week. Here we go. And special surprise, there is a new spot on the randomizer. And we've landed on the new spot.
You shouldn't have said anything. That looks like it was fixed.
This is called Teammates. Okay, so I will name 1 player.
Oh, God.
And then I'll name 3 players. I'll go through them one at a time so you don't have to think about all 3. You have to tell me if that player was ever a teammate of the main player that I named first, okay? May sound a little complicated, but trust me, this is easy. And this is actually...
And there's only one that's not, or all? I have to figure it out for
You'll figure it out. It could be all 3 are, all 3 are not.
Okay.
One is,
I'm just making sure. I just got to make sure if I'm looking for one or if I got to actually pay attention.
It's going to be any combo. It could be in any position here. So The quick story before we start here, but this game is actually inspired by a game that I played on the radio to win tickets to the Doug Gilmour jersey retirement in Toronto. That must have been about 10 years ago now. So yeah, I was at that.
Wow.
I was at that game, won tickets on the radio, and they must have been like fourth last row in the arena, but still
Of course.
cool to be there. So
You were there though.
I was there. I can say I was there, and it was an awesome night. So we talked about him earlier in the program, Mr. 1,000 Games. The player is Sidney Crosby. Okay, Nick?
Okay, this is my generation. I
Yep.
might be okay. I was worried you were going to go old school on me and
Not
just
yet.
absolutely screw me.
Not yet. Maybe the next time teammate shows up and it's my turn. But Sidney Crosby here. I will name 3 players. You have to tell me whether or not these players were ever teammates of Sidney Crosby. We'll stick to.
Follow-up question.
I might have an answer. We'll stick to the NHL because if we
So
go,
they have to be NHL teammates.
NHL
so it's not like he
teammates.
can play on Team Canada or Rimouski or something like that. Like, it has to be NHL.
at this point, we'll keep those off the
Okay.
board and just.
That was
go
my question.
NHL.
Good
I
answer.
thought it might be so. All right, Nick. Here we go. Player number 1, and all 3 of these players actually have a theme to them. Management.
What's the theme?
Management in the NHL.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
like that.
Here we go. GM of the Minnesota Wild, Bill Guerin. Was Bill Guerin ever a teammate of Sidney
Yes.
Crosby? Yes, he was. That's correct.
Yes, he was. He was wasn't he a teammate when they won their first cup with Crosby?
In 2009, I feel like, yeah.
I think he was on that team. That's
Yep.
the only reason that I know that.
That would be the era. Okay.
It was easy. All right. Good start, Nick.
This is a bit of a story that we didn't even have time to get to, but former management personality in Arizona, Steve Sullivan. Was Steve Sullivan ever a teammate of Sidney
Yes.
Crosby? Yes, he was, Nick. Well done there. He had
He played like a year and a half with Pittsburgh, didn't he?
a season yet with Dan Bilesma as coach around 2013. He actually had a decent season, 13 goals. And
Wasn't that the one that they lost to Detroit?
No, they lost to Detroit in 08, so not
Oh.
quite there yet.
Which one did they lose? I don't know.
No, they lost to Detroit in 08 and then won in 09 and then won in 17 and 18. So,
Okay.
all right, here we go. The next player.
2 for 2. All right. I'm confident. I won. I've already won. I'm above 50%. I can't lose.
General manager in New Jersey, Tom Fitzgerald. Tom Fitzgerald. Tom Fitzgerald
Oh,
played for a lot of teams in the NHL.
He played for a lot. I don't think he played with Crosby, but I think he played on Pittsburgh like the year before.
He did not play with Sidney Crosby, so you're
Yeah.
correct on that. I believe, though, they did do a little bit of coaching with the Penguins.
Yeah, I knew he was on like an assistant coach or some sort of role with the Penguins, but I thought he might have played with Pittsburgh before Crosby got there.
No, he did not. So, but
He never played with Pittsburgh. Well,
he
that
did not
shows
play
what
with.
I know.
He did not play with. Spent some time with Boston, Toronto, the Islanders, a lot of teams for Tommy Fitzgerald. But yeah, he did not. Was not a teammate with Sidney Crosby. So you got all 3, Nick. I mean,
Wow.
I tried to, put it in your wheelhouse there with your era and players that you would know, but also tried to make it a little
See,
tough
I
at the
got
same
you.
time.
The one thing you didn't know about me was Steve Sullivan was one of my favorite players growing up. So I actually followed his career just the way he played, it entertained me. So that one was easy. I know that was probably supposed to be a bit harder than the first one, but
My favorite Steve Sullivan memory is, I believe, the game in Colorado, and he got hit into
the player, yeah.
He got hit into the glass, cuts himself open. The fans laughing at him, and then sure
fan
enough,
gets hit by the puck.
the fan gets hit by a puck, cuts himself open, and Sullivan makes sure to do a lap by the glass and laugh at the fans. So that is one of the all-time great NHL moments. So that was teammates. That will be on the randomizer. We got 6 games now on the randomizer, so lots of
Got too
options.
many games.
We'll have to get rid of. So I don't do well with Who Am I? So maybe something's coming off the wheel. So. Again, Nick wins it, goes 3 for 3 on the randomizer.
I wonder what Mike would say.
Mike, Mike was talking to us about the randomizer. He enjoys it. So that brings an end to this 20 Minutes on Ice. Be sure to subscribe to the show wherever you download your favorite podcasts. And for those of you watching us on YouTube, hit that like button. That helps us out a lot. You can follow me on Twitter at Ryan_H16. Nick's on Twitter at Nick McVicker. And the show's on Twitter and Instagram at 20 Minutes on Ice. You can also head on over to garagedoorsports.com and find us under the shows tab. We will be sure to be back next week with more 20 Minutes on Ice. Until then, thank you for listening. Goodbye, everybody.